Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you're back for another video, I thank you so much for getting back with us. So today I wanted to touch base and do a video that I feel like would benefit everybody, whether you are a new grad going for a new job or you are an experienced nurse who has not interviewed in a while and you're going for a new position as well. So in this video, I'm going to touch base on a few questions that I myself have asked, being that I've done management before, and questions that I have been asked, being that I've been interviewed for jobs, nursing positions, and just give you guys really good idealistic examples of answers and just like a base so that you guys can build on them for your own personal interviews and just personalize them to make them work for you. So if you guys want to see how I answer these nursing based questions on interviews, then keep on watching. All right, guys, so one of the first questions that you'll probably be asked when on a job interview is, why do you want to work here? Why did you choose this facility amongst all the other facilities in your area? And when it comes to this question, the most important thing that you're probably going to want to do is research what the facility's mission statement is. That is your easiest key way to get in the door and really impress the person that is interviewing you. So in this hypothetical situation, I'm going to say that the mission statement for this facility is, the patient comes first no matter what. And I'm going to incorporate this mission statement into my answer. And my answer would kind of go something like this. Well, nursing has always been my passion, and I have always been driven to take care of patients for as long as I could remember. I've always believed that the needs of the patients always come first above anything else. And that is why I want to work at this facility, because my beliefs coincide with the mission statement for this facility, which of course says the patient comes first no matter what. I am a firm believer that no matter what is going on the outside of the hospital walls, whatever personal things I may have, as hard as it may be, I always leave it at the door, because at the end of the day, I am here to care for patients and I'm here for their well-being, and whatever needs they have, that takes priority over whatever else I have going on outside of these walls. So that is one of the main reasons why I chose your facility to work for, and that is because I truly believe that my beliefs coincide with your mission statement. So that was really simple. Like I said, once again, you took their mission statement, you took whatever it is your beliefs are, and you made them mesh. So that kind of gives them an idea of the kind of person that you are. It gives them, it looks good because it looks like you did your research and you know what their mission statement is prior to coming to the interview, and you didn't just pick this job just because. So that is one of the ways that you can definitely A+ this answer. One of the other questions that interviewers like to ask is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? So this is one of those where it's super simple. Anybody can say what their strengths are, but you really want to be careful when you're answering questions about your weakness. You want to make your weakness still be a weakness, but kind of be a strength, okay? So I'm going to give you an example of how I would answer a question such as, what is your biggest strength and weakness? My biggest strength is that I always prioritize my patient's needs above all else. No matter what I have going on outside of the walls of this facility, I always put my patient's needs first. I make sure that I am able to communicate with them on an intimate level. I am able to identify what their biggest needs are, what is most important to them, and I always make it my mission to deliver the best possible care that I can give as their nurse. Now, when it comes to my biggest weakness, I would like to say, or I would say personally, that that would be the fact that I can sometimes get very frustrated when I don't see my colleagues exuberating the same passion that I have for patient care. And it is something that I'm actively working on, and I've learned over time that when I see situations like that arise, that it is best that I communicate this to my superiors and I follow the chain of command. Boom. So that question is answered in 3 parts. You're identifying your strengths, which is that you care for patients passionately. Your weakness is that you're bothered when you see others not having the same passion and are not as forthcoming and overachieving as you are. And you've also shown them that you've definitely tried to work on that weakness, and that is something that you are actively working on. So that is an A+ answer. Another question that interviewers like to ask is, tell me about a time that you had a difficult patient or a difficult family member, and how did you handle that? Now, a question like this is broken down into 3 parts. Number 1, you're going to identify what the problem was. You're going to identify what you did to solve the problem or help resolve the problem. And number 3, you're going to talk about how your innovative way of fixing this problem helped the unit, the facility, the patient as a whole. So there's 3 parts to this question. So in a situation like that, where they would ask me what was a time that I had a difficult patient or family member, this is how I would respond. I remember last year when I was working at Grace Sloan Memorial Center, I had a patient that was very belligerent to the staff. No matter what we did, we could not appease this patient. one day he ended up being my patient, and looking over his chart, I realized that this particular patient had a terminal diagnosis. So I went into his room, sat down in a chair at his bedside, and I spoke to him about his feelings in regards to his terminal diagnosis. That is when he revealed to me that he was not angry at the staff, but that his true anger and agitation came from the fact that his family did not come to visit him and that he did not feel like he was ready for this terminal diagnosis. So after informing my charge nurse of my findings, I called the hospitalist to see if we can get this patient a therapist, somebody that he can speak to about his feelings and what he was going through. And believe it or not, within the next day or two, after speaking to the therapist and also making some medication changes, this patient was the most pleasant person that you can possibly meet. He was so thankful that I took the time out to talk to him, and he was just grateful that somebody, the therapist, was able to communicate with him and just give him the answers and comfort and just somebody to talk to. He basically was able to get somebody to talk to help with whatever he was going through. And not only does this benefit the patient, but it benefited the facility, the unit as a whole, because he was easier for us to take care of. He was more willing to go down for exams, willing for us to care for him and take his vitals. So at the end of the day, everybody benefited, and it was probably one of the most proudest moments of my career. As you guys can see, although lengthy, this answer gave 3 different parts. I identified what the problem was, which was my problematic patient who was angry, aggressive with the staff, what I did personally, which was get him a therapist, and how that benefited the unit as a whole. He was happier, everything was good, and the benefit of the whole entire unit. So everything ended up working perfectly fine because I intervened. So those are the kind of answers that you're going to want to give. So think back to when these situations may have arisen. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? So that is another question that interviewers like to ask. And the purpose of this question is to identify if you see yourself within the company long term. Now, when you're hired as a nurse, you typically get about 2 months of training, and the company invests a lot in you, believe it or not. They're paying for your exams, your drug screening, your background check, your training. All that is an investment that they're making in you. So the company wants to know that you are in here for the long haul, that you really want this job. So when you're asked a question like this, one of the things that you're going to want to do is identify how you plan to grow within the company. So this is how I would answer a question like that. In 5 years, I definitely see myself being a part of this company first and foremost. I have done my research, and I am confident that I would be an asset to this facility. My passion is teaching, and I hope to, within the next 5 years, build on my skills, and I'm able to work as a clinical educator or a clinical coordinator, just being able to pass off to new grads and newer nurses what I have learned and what I have benefited from working in this hospital. So yes, I definitely see myself here for the long haul. I do see what I'm doing now as the basis that will get me to where I want to go within the company. So once again, an answer like that lets them know that you are in here for the long haul, that you're not just here for a good time. You're here for a long time, okay? So kind of word your answer like that. Think about what your long-term goals are. Are you planning on becoming a nurse practitioner so you can work at this facility? Do you want to be a charge nurse on your unit? All that. Communicate that to the person who is interviewing you so they don't feel like you're just here temporarily or you're just passing by, that this is truly where you want to work. Because like I said before, they are investing a lot in you, taking you on to work on their unit. Another question that interviewers like to ask is, why do you feel like you are the best person for this job? So this is one of those tricky questions, and it takes some research on your behalf. And what you need to do is just research to see what problems or difficulties this unit or facility is facing currently at this time. So, and then figure out a way to give an answer to that in your response. So this is how I would respond to a question like that. I know at this time, one of your biggest concerns are retaining new nurses. I have been a nurse for about 4 years now, and during that time, I have worked as a clinical educator, and I have precepted about 5 to 6 nurses who have retained their position in my last facility, Greystone Memorial Center. What I hope to bring to your facility at this time is a leader and someone that your newer nurses that you're hiring can look to, that I can educate them and make them feel comfortable so that they can stay in the company for a long time. I feel like what I bring is that experience along with that compassion and understanding to newer nurses, and I feel like that would be a great asset and that would benefit the company as a whole. So in this fictional situation, the problem that I made up in my head was that they're having issues retaining nurses. So how do I plan to fix that? I've had 4 years of nursing experience. I precepted a multitude of different nurses and they've stayed in the facility. So I am an asset. I am somebody that once they hire, they can count on so that they can have somebody train newer nurses that they may get in the future. So that answers the problem that they may have. So you're going to have to kind of do your research. Another question that interviewers love to ask during an interview is, what do you find to be most rewarding in nursing? So the answer that I love to give is, my reward in nursing never stops. It is ongoing. Every single day that I come to work, that I step foot in a facility and I am able to care for patients is another reward added to the bank. I come to work every single day knowing that I am making a difference in the lives of not only these patients, but their families, and that alone just brings me immense joy. I do understand that my job is not always going to be the easiest, that I'm going to have hard days and bad days, but at the end of the day, the biggest reward for me, if I could come away with just making one difference in somebody's life, that alone is enough for me. So that's a good answer for you to give. You're basically identifying that being a nurse is difficult, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're short-staffed. It doesn't matter if the patients are hard. It doesn't matter if you have a difficult assignment. At the end of the day, what you get out of it, the joy that you receive from caring for patients stands above everything else. So that is a great answer for you to give. Another question that interviewers like to ask is, what is your biggest strength and what do you feel like you could bring to the company? Now, this is another one of those questions where they ask you what is your biggest strength and weakness. But with this one, once again, you're going to have to do a little research and you're going to have to find out what they're struggling with. Like, what are they looking for? Are they looking for a leader? Or are they looking for somebody that's going to stay? Are they having issues with retention? And therefore, you're going to be able to answer this question and just knock the interviewer out of their boots. Okay, so in this fictional situation, I'm going to say that their biggest problem is that, once again, nurse retention. It's a problem everywhere. You can never go wrong with nurse retention. And I'm going to answer the question as such. One of my strongest suits would be my willingness to always assist in any way that I can. I understand that sometimes in nursing, you have those who may be newer in the field, and sometimes that can be frustrating to other staff. But I truly believe that it is my responsibility and my duty as an older nurse to help those novice nurses excel to the best of their ability. And I believe that my strongest asset is being able to identify that and being able to sit down and coach and lead these nurses so that they can be a strong asset to the team. Because I truly believe that when you work in a unit, in a facility, on a wing, you are only as strong as your weakest link. And not saying that some nurses are weak, but some of them do need additional coaching. And I feel like with my experience and what I have been able to do as a clinical educator in the past, or just being a nurse that has had more experience than those on my unit, I can definitely be an asset to the team. Boom. Once again, that is another question where you're taking your strength, you're taking the need, which in this fictional example, like I said, is retention of nurses, which is an issue everywhere, and you're making it something that you can address, that's something you can help fix, and that will definitely get you through the door. Another question that nursing interviewers love to ask is, how do you cope with the stresses of nursing? So the purpose of this question is, one, to identify that you in fact are aware that nursing is stressful, that you're not one of those people who have walked through the door and you're like, no, nursing is good, nursing is fine, I'm not stressed, I'm good. Because that's a sign that you might go postal, okay? Nursing is stressful. We're not sipping pina coladas on a beach. So they want to be able to make sure that, one, that you are aware that nursing is stressful, that this unit is going to be stressful, this environment is going to be stressful, and that you have a healthy asset, resource, thing that you do outside of work that alleviates that stress. I used to ask that question all the time because I don't want you taking all your stress and frustration on my patients, okay? So how I would answer a question like, how do you deal with the stresses of nursing, would be something like this. I believe that dealing with stress is one of the most important aspects of nursing. We are all aware that nursing is not always the easiest job. We're working 12, sometimes 13-hour shifts, being a part of sometimes the most stressful events in someone's life. So for me personally, when I leave the building, I make sure that I leave the stress there. On my off days, I go and I do kickboxing. That is how I relieve my stress. I also go to therapy, and I also do group counseling. In addition to that, I just spend a lot of time with my family because I believe that, once again, just always putting my outside personal life and what is going on in my job separate. In order to keep that separate, I need to have a healthy home life, personal life, in order so that I can give the best care possible to my patients, to my residents. And that's how I deal with stress. I identify that it is a stressful environment, and I have a multitude of outlets that I am a part of in order to alleviate stress, so that when I do come to work, I am the best person I can be for my patients. Okay, so that's a great answer that you can give. You're identifying that yes, you do sometimes get stressed. You know that this job is stressful, yet you have found some healthy coping mechanisms so that you don't go posto. Okay, so that is the purpose of that question right there. Another question that interviewers like to ask is, what do you find to be the hardest part of your job? What do you find to be the hardest part of being a nurse? So with a question like this, you're never going to say anything psychological. Like, I wouldn't say I find that my patients are stressful, my coworkers are stressful. I personally wouldn't say anything like that, because number one, you're admitting that you find those things to be stressful, and they might kind of look at you a little sideways. I mean, we all know it, but the fact that you're willing to say it, could sometimes rub the interviewer the wrong way. So I would personally answer a question like that, like this. To be completely honest with you, the hardest part of nursing to me would be the physical demands and the toll that it takes on your body. And what I have found to help me in regards to that aspect is just staying physically fit. I make sure that I go to the gym at least 2 to 3 times a week. I make sure I eat healthy when I'm doing my 12-hour shifts. I make sure that I eat a snack in between, that I make sure that I take my lunch break, and just making sure that I am physically able to assist my patients in the best way that I can. That is how I overcome the hardest part of nursing. Like I said, to me, is the physical aspects of it all, working the 12 hours. See, I chose something physical. It's hard. We all know working as a nurse is hard. You're working 12-hour shifts. You're working up and down the hall. Sometimes you can't even get a lunch break. So that's a very good answer compared to the hardest part about nursing is dealing with these patients. Like, you really don't want to say that. So that's how I would answer a question like that. So another question that interviewers like to ask is for you to tell them about yourself. So this is one of those questions that can sometimes stump people, because you're not really sure what exactly they're asking for. Do they want to know about your past life? Do they want to know about your accomplishments? Do they want to know what you like to do on the weekends? So for questions like that, I personally like to focus on my past accomplishments and what I have done nursing related up until this point. So when they say, tell me about yourself, do not talk about how you like to watch football on the weekends and you like to go out and drink and party. Like, no. When they say, tell me about yourself, you're going to tell them about your nursing accomplishments or medical accomplishments, whatever it is you're interviewing for. So personally, this is how I would answer a question like that. I like to repeat the question when I start. So when they say, tell me about yourself, I would say, wow, there's just so much to say. I don't even know where to start. So I've been a nurse for about 4 years now. And one of my biggest accomplishments is being able to say that I graduated cum laude of my class. And after I graduated, I was able to secure a position on one of the units that I precepted on during my clinical rotations in school. And this was such a big accomplishment for me, because it solidified that the leaders and the charge nurses and other people on the unit that I was precepting on identified that I was truly an asset to that team. In addition to that, I have always just loved nursing. I loved being able to take care of people. Prior to becoming a nurse, I worked as a CNA in another facility, and there I was able to care for patients with Alzheimer's and dementia, and I was also able to volunteer when I was in high school at a children's camp. So to me, taking care of patients, taking care of people has always been something that I've always valued and have known that I was destined to do. And this is the pinnacle of my career right now, and this is the job that I am hoping to get, that would just basically solidify everything that I've worked for up until this point. So what you're doing with an answer like that is you're showing them that the nursing or the medical field has always been something that you've always been a part of. So it didn't just start today. Like, you didn't wake up this morning and decide you wanted to be a nurse, and you didn't just go to nursing school just to become a nurse. During your clinicals, you took that very seriously. Prior to that, you were a volunteer, and then before that, you worked as a CNA. Obviously, with questions like that, you're going to want to be truthful. You're not going to be making up things, because that's not right. But you're going to want to be able to prepare and pull from your past situations that have shown that you have always wanted to care for people. If you never. Alright guys, so that is the end of the video. I hope that you were able to get something out of this. If you truly found this video to be helpful, please do not forget to give it a thumbs up. I would love to also hear your feedback. Let me know if you were able to use some of these answers as basis during your interviews, and if they help you land your dream job. So once again, thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you on my next video. Bye!